Hey everybody, happy Tuesday and welcome to another episode of Let's Stay Together. And Merry Christmas week. I am so excited for today's episode. It's with Joseph Morgan, who is an incredible actor. You all know him from The Vampire Diaries and of course the spin-off The Originals. And we have a great conversation in store for you guys today. So sit back, have fun, relax, and let me grab my guest right now. All right. He should be in 1 second. And guys, I have all of your questions lined up, so stick around. I'm going to ask them a bit later in the interview. And you all have some really good questions, so I can't wait to bring those up and ask Joseph all of them. All right, let me grab him. Let's see. Hey, Emily, I see you in here, Emily. All right, it should be just 1 more minute. So hang tight, you guys. But yeah, we have a great conversation. So this is all about his time on The Vampire Diaries and The Originals. We have a lot of great conversation to get into. Fan questions, fan favorites, things that perhaps he's never talked about before with the shows. So it should be a blast. And I can't think of a better person to have on than Joseph as we enter the holiday week. All right, I am grabbing him right now. Hey, Joseph.
How are you?
I'm good. It's good to see you. You doing well?
Yeah, I'm well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Of course, my pleasure. So Joseph, I created this show back in March when COVID kind of shut the world down because I wanted people to have a place that they can turn to every single week for some joy, some hope, inspiration, and to just have fun. And you bring all of that and more, so we should have a blast.
I hate to tell you that I'm in a terrible mood today. So it's all going to come out now on the show, you know. So, no, that's I mean, we need it, man. We need it, you know. There's so much worrying news out there, and so it's lovely to be able to distract ourselves for a moment from that and explore some fun stuff. So yeah.
Absolutely. And to all of your fans who are tuned in, they sent me a bunch of questions and I put together a few of the most popular ones. And I'll be asking those towards the end of the interview. So guys, stick around and see if your question gets asked. And we have a lot to get to, so I'm going to dive right in.
Let's go for it, man. I'm ready.
All right. So you are, I mean, I don't need to say this, but you are a brilliant actor and director. You've done so many incredible things in London and also here, obviously, in the US. But it's through your role as Klaus in The Vampire Diaries and the spin-off The Originals that this worldwide fandom exploded around you. So bringing it back, like all the way back, when you first started on The Vampire Diaries, what attracted you to wanting to do that type of show?
You know, honestly, I'd been a little anti-TV before that. You know, I'd sort of been going for film roles, and I'd been very much in that world. And there was a few things that happened. One, my very best friend Matt Ryan, who plays Constantine in the show Constantine and now in Legends of Tomorrow, he started working on a TV show, and I went to visit him on set, and I realized how wonderful it was that you could play a character on a show and be in people's living rooms every week, and people could get to know you, and the arc extended beyond 2 hours, you know, went on, and people could actually grow with your character, grow up with your character even, you know, in my case now, which is kind of amazing. I get people contacting me who are 12, 13, watching the shows, and I think you were, you know, you must have been about 4 or 5 when I started playing this role. It's crazy because I played it for 7 years, you know. So there was that, and then I've always just been fascinated and a little obsessed with vampires. And you know, I read a lot of vampire fiction and watched every movie and show I could get my hands on growing up. So when the part came up and I read the sides and I saw what it was, I thought, yeah, I know how I'm going to do this. I've been thinking about this since I was about 8 years old. So
yeah, that's amazing. And what a great character. Klaus is a fan favorite. So how did the opportunity to play him come up for you? What was that audition process like? Were you always in the mix to play him, or did you kind of, you know, try out for a few different roles? Kind of walk me through how this all happened for you.
Well, so so I knew Paul a little bit through mutual friends, and so I'd seen the show, not every episode by any means, but I'd seen a few episodes of the show, and I saw it blow up for Paul, who played Stefan in the Vampire Diaries. And then and I think I'd done a film called Immortals, and then I was, you know, looking for work again, and this audition came up for the Vampire Diaries, and I'd seen my friend Matt do TV, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to go for this. You know, this is my kind of thing, and I know how I'd like to play this character. And so I went in and read for casting in Los Angeles, because I made the move to Los Angeles at that point. And then I think about a few days later, I got called in to meet with Julie Plec and Kevin Williamson, who were creators of the show. And not to read, just to come in and meet them. And I came in and chatted with them and got on very well, and we joked about a bit. And I started to feel like, I think they are actually quite interested in me playing the role. And then this crazy thing happened. Before I got offered the role, I was out and about, and I had a friend call me saying, I heard you're going to be on Vampire Diaries. And I what? No, I mean, I read for it. And I searched on my phone, I searched on the internet, and I found there was all these crazy articles online about how they were circling me for the role of Klaus. You know how they say that? They're circling the role of Klaus. And I realized what a big deal it was. And I think I hadn't realized before that point how much they had invested in this character. And I'm so glad I didn't, because I would have been, you know, had all of that weight on me going into the room reading for it. But there was all this anticipation. And then, you know, after I got the role, I started watching the show, and all through season 2, the characters are saying, you know, Klaus is coming, he'll kill you and everyone you've ever met, and all of this stuff. And I realized, oh my God, there's a huge build up to this character coming in. So it was sort of amazing to suddenly have that surrounding me. It was a whirlwind, you know. And then, you know, thankfully I got offered the part, and the part was 4 episodes as a guest at the end of season 2, with the potential to become a regular. So I think they thought, if he's rubbish, we can just make him body swap into someone else and cast another actor. They were protecting themselves there, you know.
Man, I mean, and what a journey you've been on with this role. He's a huge fan favorite. Of course, he's you know, werewolf, vampire hybrid, and villainous in many ways, but yet he has a soft spot for his family, of course. Just such a layered character. I imagine so much fun for you to play. So what were some of your favorite parts about getting to sink your teeth into this role?
Well, so it's sort of, you know, it unfolded as it went on. So it started, you know, he started as a villain, and there was all of that element to play. But then there was this element they brought in of his brother, Elijah, and that relationship. So there was a little opportunity to play that, you know, that emotional dynamic for the character. So he wouldn't just be one-dimensional evil. And in fact, Daniel Gillies and I had a joke early on, because in the last but one episode of season 2, there's a moment where, you know, Elijah agrees to betray Klaus, you know, and help Stefan and Damon, and he's going to stop this ritual that Klaus is starting. And he shows up, and he's, you know, he stops the ritual, and there's a moment when they're by the lake, and there's this circle of fire, and Elijah has his hand in Klaus's chest, and he's holding his heart, and he's going to rip it out, but he can't do it because it's his brother. And Gillies and I did that scene, and people came over afterwards, or the director came over afterwards, and said, you know, I think that was just some of the best acting I've ever seen. And we have this joke that whenever there's fire in a scene, everybody thinks it's the best acting you've ever seen, because it increases the intensity, and you're in the firelight, and, you know, there's all that passion. If there's tears in your eyes, they're glistening in the flames, and everybody goes, oh my God, that's the best acting you've ever seen. So fire makes acting 30% better. So that was, you know, when I knew that this character would be a hit, as long as I could maintain flames in every scene that I did. But yeah, it was a surprise for me as well. There was opportunities like when they introduced Klaus's father or stepfather in season 3, and I realized that Klaus was afraid of him. There was an opportunity there where I really was able to show emotion and show that vulnerability and that side of that kind of rejected, unloved kid who acts out in every way he can. And at that point, I was able to build in those layers. And then as they introduced love interest, I was able to build in those other layers. And then, of course, going to the originals and having it centered around family, and with Rebecca, you know, especially, and then Hope as she became a character, a girl rather than a baby. There was all of this other stuff to build in. But I knew from the beginning that I wanted to, you know, the way I tackle a role, the way I handle a role is always to try and see things from their point of view. And so I knew that I had to do that from the beginning, and that just became easier as all these little doorways were opened for me.
Were you ever surprised at how much people just fell in love with your character? Did you expect that? Were you kind of like, that's different? Because, you know, he had some stuff that he had some darkness, we'll say. So were you surprised by the fandom around Klaus?
Yeah, I mean, of course, yes. There was this thing, you know, The Vampire Diaries was already a massive hit. So in the beginning, I feel like I just jumped on their coattails and kind of rode them into my profile rising. But I knew as well, I knew Twitter was a big deal. Initially, I didn't have a Twitter account, and I saw what Ian and Paul and Nino were doing with their Twitter, engaging with the fans like that. And I knew that was something that I wanted to utilize. And I did that before I even aired on the show. I got Nina to put a tweet out saying, this is the guy who's going to be playing Klaus. And of course, as I said, there was all that build up. So people were instantly interested. And I made a real effort to connect with fans before I even aired, to show them that I was a fan of the genre as well, to talk about the books I'd read, all of the vampire books, the Vampire Diaries books that I'd read, and to make sure they knew how respectful I was of the genre and how I was, you know, my kind of love for horror and for that world. And so I made a strong effort to connect with them, and they responded in kind.
Yeah, no, absolutely. When I announced you as my guest, the amount of messages I received from people saying how much you've touched them and helped them through many different things in their lives was unbelievable. We're going to get to that in a bit. But I think it's so cool that you said you started on the show in this kind of 4-episode, you know, arc originally, and you go from that to being offered a headliner role in your own spin-off show. Yeah. Did you have any input when you were, you know, in the early stages of your character, whether he would get killed off, whether he wouldn't? Did you voice any kind of concern about not wanting that to happen? I mean, were you involved in that early process at all? So,
you know, when you sign on to be a series regular on most network television, it's a 6-year contract. So I signed that contract before I joined the show at all, because there was always potential after these 4 guest episodes to be a regular. So they wanted that contract in place. So in some ways, really, I didn't like, they could do whatever they wanted. But it was always, in spite of that contract, it was always from the beginning thought that Klaus would die at the end of season 3. So I would come in at the end of season 2. Season 3 would be my big season of being this villain throughout the whole season, and then the good guys would defeat me at the end of season 3. And that's what I wanted as well, because it wasn't my show, and I thought, this is great, I can springboard off this and try and get my own show, and, you know, keep building my profile and use this as part of that. And then a few things happened. One was, of course, like you mentioned, just the degree of passion with which the fans responded to the character. And the other was, you know, just I was just having so much fun playing it. And I always felt, though, like the character was, there wasn't enough room to grow in the setting of Vampire Diaries. Like, I understand a character like that coming to this little town of Mystic Falls to complete this ceremony and then sticking around because his family's there. But I knew, like, how long can he stay there terrorizing the high school in this little town, this worldly vampire? And so then all of these fan-made trailers started happening for the originals. You know, the fans named that show. It was them creating all these online, these YouTube trailers for the show. to the point where Claire and Daniel and I were thinking, you know, this would be really great. Like, this could be a real thing. And we did an episode in season 3 called Ordinary People, which was centered all around the originals and their backstory back to Viking times, when they first were a family, when they first became vampires. And we looked at each other a few times during that episode, sort of saying, you know, wouldn't it be great if this was the show? Not that it was bad with the other guys, but just because, you know, you want to explore your character more, and for the thing to be centered around you so that you have the means to do that. And so then with all of that, with the fans, I remember Claire and I, Daniel was away doing another show called Saving Hope in Canada. And Claire and I decided we went for dinner one night and we said, okay, we're just going to go to Julie Plec, and say, we want to do a show. We want to make this our own show. And we have the backing of the fans. And then we planned to do this. And then before we did it, about 2 days later, they came in with an offer for us to do the show. And so it was amazing. We were poised to kind of go to her, and they came to us. And then it took a long time to come to be a thing. You know, there was a lot of sort of building it up. It was going to be set in Chicago originally and be slightly different. And it took a while. You know, it took all of that season 4 of Vampire Diaries to sort of become a thing until we did the backdoor pilot at the end of season 4. So
many people have been streaming it and wrote to me saying it's a show that has saved them during quarantine, and they're having so much fun revisiting it, not once, not twice, but watching it from episode 1 to the final episode like 10 times. It's pretty remarkable, and that's a testament to the job you guys did on the show, to building this world and environment and escapism for everybody who wanted to tune in. So I mean, that's all you guys. But you have some pretty epic scenes throughout the course of the series. What are some unforgettable ones to you?
Okay, so I'll go quickly because there's a few. So in the originals, which was really, you know, where the character came into his own, I think in season 1, episode 8, there was a moment where Marcel and Rebecca betrayed Klaus, and they've got about 30 vampires in a courtyard, and he says, okay, whoever picks up this coin gets to live, and the rest of you, you know, not going to make it. And he does this huge speech to them, and then they attack him anyway, and he has this huge fight, and he takes them all down. And I like that because I came from a theatre background, so grandstanding and doing this great big speech in front of everyone was a lot of fun. And then getting to do all of the stunt work of the fight sequence is something else I really love. So that was one of my favorite episodes ever, still is. Then another moment from is season 3. At the end of season 3, the finale of season 3, they put Klaus on trial, and they gather all these people that he's wronged, and everybody says what he did to them, and then he again makes a huge speech. I like the speeches. He does this huge speech, sort of not declaring his innocence, going, yeah, I did do all of that, and you all deserved it, and you should be grateful to me because I made you all vampires anyway. And you know, and I enjoyed that. Again, bit of grandstanding. And then very much enjoyed the very last episode of the originals ever, when he says goodbye to Hope. I really liked that because it was such an emotional scene, and it's really kind of what the whole show was all about, was family, protecting family, connection with family, and particularly for Klaus, connection with his daughter. Because, you know, this was really a big thing for Julie and I going into the show. Klaus had been around for 1,000 years, and he'd done everything, and he'd experienced almost everything you could, you know, he traveled everywhere, and he'd had relationships and enemies and all of these things. But the one thing that was new for him through the whole season, was through the whole of the series, was his daughter, Hope. That was one thing that he hadn't experienced, and her growing up, her being a part of his life, experiencing that unconditional love he had for her, and trying to deal with the idea of being a father, that for him was the new thing. And so that was the most exciting thing for me about playing the character, and kind of the center of it for me.
Yeah, those were some incredible moments, and that scene with his daughter was. I think there were a lot of weepy eyes at home watching those final moments. My God,
we tried to decide. I remember talking to Julie and going, right, thing is, we don't want him emotional through the whole last episode. You know, he can't just be like glassy eyed through the whole thing. So we've got to pick our moments. And then every time a scene came up and I'd look at her and I go, and she'd go, I mean, this is another one of those moments. So you realize like you have to really plot it. But that for me was a huge one. And it was crazy because there was a huge snowstorm in Atlanta and we blocked the scene. We set it all up and then we all had to go home because we were going to get snowed in and people were leaving. And so we had to leave the scene and then come back to it 2 days later and start filming it, having already rehearsed it and blocked it. So there was this big build up. You know, normally you prepare for a scene and then you're in your dressing room or whatever and you're keeping your emotion here because you're ready to do this scene. So this was a 2-day build up as well of sort of having said it out loud and knowing the shape of it and then waiting to release that, you know.
Man, you brought all the emotions throughout your entire journey playing this role, and I think that's one of the reasons why people connect with you and the role so much. It's they could feel it. It felt like a real experience that people were having. And another thing I got a lot of comments about was your relationship on the show with Caroline. And people are invested in that relationship throughout the entire series. So for you, were you happy with how things kind of wrapped up between the two of you on the show? And was there anything else you wanted to see?
No, I was pretty happy with it, man, because, I mean, look, I know this and I get it a huge amount as well. And I know that some people like the idea of like, well, we just wanted to see them end up together, but that's not realistic for him. And quite frankly, I don't think he deserved it. You know, I get asked a lot, which, you know, would you rather he be with this character or this character? And honestly, I think he didn't really, he wasn't ready for that kind of emotional commitment at that point, and he didn't deserve it either. I think one of the fun things dramatically about playing Klaus was how destructive he was of his own life. And he tried to do he did these terrible things for what he saw as good reasons. But also he blew up his own life so many times and he pushed people away who cared about him frequently. And that was incredibly exciting to play dramatically. And so I wouldn't change that at all, because if my character was to just end up with another character and spend a season in a relationship, I feel like I'd be bored and it would take away from the turbulence of his arc, which was so fun for me.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. And, you know, that final day on set, man, you dedicated years of your life to playing Klaus. When they yelled rap and you walked off set and that was it, what was that experience like for you?
Ah, man. So it was weird. It kind of came twofold, okay? Because we shot in Atlanta, right? Atlanta for New Orleans. And we were on the stages in Atlanta. And then what happened was a very small skeleton crew went to New Orleans to film the last 3 scenes of the whole show. So what happened was in Atlanta, we filmed the last scene on the set, and all of the cast, apart from myself and Daniel and Claire, were then done. So it was a big group scene and we all stood in a big circle with the crew and some of us spoke, and it was really emotional saying goodbye to all of these guys. You know, people forget as well, I think, that the crew is such a huge part of it. You know, some of these guys, like my relationship with the cinematographers and the camera guys, the relationship between an actor and a camera operator is key. Like it's a ballet constantly. You're aware of each other and you develop such a rapport and a language. And so to say goodbye to those guys and not to be coming in, you know, after the weekend again to talk about it was just hugely emotional. And then this little group of us went off to New Orleans to film the last few scenes. And the last scene we filmed was the last scene of the whole show. And it was in Jackson Square. And so it was me preparing to die. Spoiling it if you haven't seen it though, you shouldn't be fucking watching this interview. So it was me preparing to die. And so in that scene, you know, Rebecca is there and she says goodbye first and she walks away, leaving Elijah and Klaus in the square. So Claire did that, and then that was a wrap on Claire for the whole show. And so that was huge and emotional, but we still had work to do. And so then we did this final scene, and was just me and Daniel, and we shot the thing, and then I think they kept the cameras rolling, and then Julie did like a little speech about us and about the show in general, and again, it was just very moving and surreal, very surreal to be standing there in Jackson Square. And then they wrapped, and this was the weird thing, all of the crew packed up and like got the gear packed up really quickly because they want to get out of there, and it's 4 a.m, you know. We had plans to go to a bar after we finished, but of course we finished at 4 a.m. So and then everybody just kind of left, and I was stood there with Gillies and with my wife Persia, you know, and it was so weird. It was like everyone's just gone, and so we walked back to the hotel together. It was like the originals was done, and everyone just kind of you know, we said all we had to say, and then they left. Oh, we had a glass of wine with Gillies, my wife's saying. Yeah, we had a glass of wine, all of us, back at the hotel, and just like, oh, that was such a weird experience, you know. And then it was really weird saying goodbye to him, or good night, because I was, you know, we were leaving in the morning, and just like, right, well, you know, I'll speak to you soon, man. Like,
man, it was like that.
Weird. So weird, because it was so long coming, and then suddenly it was done, you know. And Persia said that to me because she was on a show called Girlfriends for 8.5 years. So we really connected on being part of something, you know, huge like that. And she said all through the originals, when I was having trouble with, you know, if I was struggling with a moment or I was finding something difficult, she said, you know, it feels like it will never end, and then suddenly it's over. So you've got to really enjoy it and embrace it while you can. And wow. That's the way it was. And then it was over. And we never spoke again, Gillies and I.
Never.
He's dead. Now, once you're dead on the show, you're dead to me.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, you guys seem so tight. Like, the whole cast always seems very tight throughout, you know, the journey of the show. And that's something you don't always see when you watch shows. You can tell, you're like, oh, okay, they're just playing nice, but off screen, not so much. So working with everyone must have been a blast, right?
Yeah, it was. You know, there's ups and downs. Like with any family, you have moments where certain people are arguing, and certain people there's drama, and there's all of this. But you know, for one thing I will say is it was always about the work, and so we all cared so much, and came in prepared and brought that emotional intensity to it. And yeah, it was a huge amount of fun. There was a lot of, because the show was so intense dramatically, there was a lot of mucking around in between takes. And one of our cinematographers, Roger Chingarian, used to say to me, when he'd come on set and Daniel and I were like really mucking around and winding each other and stuff, winding each other up, you know, he'd think it's going to be a good scene, because you could feel that energy kind of building and building and building. And it really was like that for me. I definitely am a fan of joking around in between with the crew and keeping it playful, because then when you go in to do these very emotional, vulnerable takes, you feel like everybody's behind you and supportive, rather than everyone feeling like, oh, this guy, you know. It feels like we're all on the same team, we're all working towards the same things. And there's two things you've got to be when you work in TV. You've got to be good, and you've got to be fast. If you can get the crew home on time and you can be good, then everybody will be supportive of you. And so that was the atmosphere we strived to create. And because of that, we had a lot of fun and, you know, a lot of pranks and playing around and all of that kind of stuff, which is, it means so much. And you look back and go, wow, it was actually really a wonderful time of my life, you know?
Yeah, that must be such a good feeling to think and have in your heart when you look back at your time on such a big chapter of your life, right?
Yeah, it is. And, you know, that's the other reason why I get asked a lot if I would go over and guest on Legacies, which is the spin-off of the originals. And I always say the same thing, which is, you know, for me, it was so important to finish the originals and to have it as a finished thing, a box set that I could put on my shelf and feel like that's a whole saga, that from start to finish, we saw that journey and we felt it. And it would feel sort of like I was cheapening that to come in and do a little guest appearance and be the character again. Why? Because we have this epic end to it. And I really respect that and feel strongly that that's the way it should be. So.
And
cut
good
to
on
me
you
in
for
3 years, like skint just appearing on legacy. Like, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that.
Well, I mean, you never know, but good on you that at this point in your life you feel like you told the story that needed to be told, and it's nice that you're leaving fans of the show and the series with that complete story, as you said.
Yeah, definitive end.
Yeah, I really like that. This show has such fandom. I mean, the originals, it means so much to so many people. What is it about this show, do you think, attracted such widespread fandom? Why are people so connected to it?
In the beginning, I think there was a huge amount of people who invested in vampire shows and television.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there was this idea of being different and having this secret about yourself that you couldn't tell. The way that the vampires in media carried that, I think that was very alluring and enticing to people. The idea of being an outsider and feeling like that, feeling like you don't fit in. And that was something people responded to. And then I think with the originals, because we centered it around family, and that family bond was so strong through the whole show, people felt like they were part of that family. And they came with us on that journey from beginning to end, and they experienced that. And people are still experiencing it. They're going through that roller coaster and the highs and lows with the family. And the one thing that is consistent throughout is that there's this bond that ties them together, this deep-seated emotional bond, and people really respected that. And in particular with my character, the idea that he would do all of these terrible things, but you kind of loved him because he did them for reasons which he believed were good, and he did them to protect his family. And I think that is, in my case at least, is what people responded to.
Absolutely. It's a show that will forever leave its mark in the history of television, and I think that's a cool thing. I think it's a really cool thing that you could always look back at that and be a part of that, and it really does mean a lot to so many. I got the DM, my DM box blew up with how much this show means to people and you and your character, so it's a pretty powerful thing.
Wow.
yeah, take that in. I know it's an amazing thing, and a lot of shows don't have that. So really,
you don't realize it, when you're doing it, because you're in a bubble, especially because we were filming on location in Atlanta.
Right.
It's only moments like going to Comic-Con where you go, oh my God, like people are watching, like people are really, really watching. Because even through social media, it doesn't feel real, really. And then you see people kind of coming towards you shaking and crying, and you realize like, oh, wow, we're really affecting people with this. And, I know I've been affected by shows and films and books in that way. And it's amazing. It's still surreal to sort of be a part of that and to feel like people really cared. And you have to be respectful of that, because it does mean so much to me. It does genuinely mean so much to me, but there's a danger of being slightly flippant about it sometimes. And I really have to try and check myself on that, because I want to be respectful of the investment people put into it, the emotional investment,
Oh yeah, for sure. And the fans of the show are everything. And they've actually sent in some great questions. So we're going to talk about your holiday special in a minute, but these were the 3 most popular fan questions I received. And I mean like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of each of these questions. So number 1, what did you take from the set, if anything? And is there anything else you wish you took that you didn't when the show wrapped?
Yes. So I took that gold coin that I held up in that scene that I told you about, where I said, whoever picks up this coin, I took that coin, which I still have upstairs. And Klaus dressed in John Varvatos through the whole of the show. And so when we finished, I took 2 big duffel bags of clothes with me.
Nice.
So I have about 10 coats and a load of other Henleys and so on and so forth, a ring that was his. And yeah, that's what I took. But I wish I had taken one of those daggers that he used on his siblings. I think that would have been such a cool memento to keep. So I wish I'd have to go back to Legacies just to get one of those bloody daggers. That in the rider if I eventually have to do it.
Or if any of the writers are listening, Christmas is coming, you know, pop it in the mail.
Send me a dagger. I might perceive it as a threat. Like, oh God.
Right. That's amazing. The next most popular question I got is, name the biggest way that Klaus evolved throughout his entire journey.
As a father, I mean, like we touched on earlier, I think that, you know, it was the goal of the originals to be Klaus's redemption. And so he went from this person who came to Mystic Falls and killed Aunt Jenna and Tyler's mum and all sorts of other terrible things that he did, to the point where someone who would give his own life to protect the person he cared about most in the world, his daughter. And so that was the biggest way that he was affected through the series.
Very, very cool. And lastly, I know you mentioned right now you wouldn't reprise your role in this capacity, but down the line, if there was a film or a made for a Netflix movie or something like that, I had a lot of people wondering if you would entertain that.
Don't know, man.
Okay.
You know, for a good amount of time after I finished the show, I definitely wanted space from it. It took me a while to watch the 5th season because I felt like when I was finished, I felt like I just want to disconnect from this whole thing for a little while and give my head some space from it. But I do love the genre, and I do still read, you know, vampire books, and I love post-apocalyptic novels, and I do love genre. So I'm not sure. I felt like that was it for me with vampires in general. But I don't know. Yeah. Have to be the right thing, and the timing would have to be right as well. But you know, I'm always going to want to work in genre in general, because that's the stuff I watch, and that's the stuff I read, and the stuff I love. So yeah, who knows?
Well, and you're pretty damn good at it, so there's that too. Now, switching gears to something a little festive, you have a holiday special coming out in a couple days.
Yeah.
And a lot of your fans are wanting to know more about it. So what is this special? Tell me all about it. What can people expect?
So basically, my wife, Persia, and I, and my stepdaughter, Mecca, have been doing these shows on a platform called Stage It. And we've done various things. You know, we did a live photo shoot, and we did a Halloween show. We even did a concert where they sang and I played guitar. And we've just been trying to sort of, I guess, just entertain people and fulfill our need to kind of to entertain people and to perform and to share, to be creative and to connect more than anything with our fan base. And it's actually been really wonderful, a wonderful window into that. I found that I've become more connected with fans, more engaged with fans than ever before, because there's a smaller number of people at the shows. You know, you can set a limit on the tickets, and the tickets are like $5 each. They're not expensive. And also, by the way, if someone can't afford $5, they can do this thing on Stage It where they hitch a ride, and they just ask other fans, hey, would you be so kind as to buy me a ticket? And our fans have been so generous in buying tickets for people who can't afford it. So there's always hundreds of people who come and hitch a ride onto the Stage It show. So it's been wonderful in that way. And then what we try and do is offer prizes like a Zoom with us after the show, or autographed photos, or various other little prizes. And so the Christmas show is the last, or the holiday show, I should say, because we're non-denominational, you know. And it's the last of our Stage It shows for the foreseeable future. And it's holiday themed. And it's just going to be a lot of fun. There may be costumes. I don't know. There may be music. There may be festive music. There may be some festive stories told. But what I do know is it's going to be a lot of fun. And I should probably bloody well rehearse some of that, which I will be doing after this. And yeah, it's just, like I said, it's been a wonderful opportunity for us to interact with people. And, you know, a portion of the proceeds is going to this charity, Support and Feed, which provides vegan food for people in need, which is quite wonderful. Wonderful charity. And the other thing is the theme of our show, which is random acts of kindness. And so one of the ways that you can win prizes or a prize during our Christmas show is by performing a random act of kindness. And what we do is we send an email out to all of the ticket holders. So there'll be a deadline coming up soon where if you've got your ticket by this point, you will receive an email because you'll be on that list. And we'll ask people about random acts of kindness they've performed. And then we'll use that and we'll read some random acts of kindness out during the show. We'll talk about that. And we'll use that to define how some of the prizes are given out. So we're just trying to encourage goodwill during this difficult time, and something in the vein of the holiday spirit, basically.
I love that. It's a feel-good, do-good holiday event.
That's
it's
right.
In 2 days, or what's the date of it?
Yeah, it's Christmas Eve, man. So it's going to be Christmas Eve, and I believe it's at 3 p.m. Pacific time, which is like, you know, about as early as we want to get camera ready and put the background up and get ready to perform for everyone. We're trying to think of our European friends as well. But yeah, it's going to be special because it's that night. And, you know, in the past, we've been very private in our home life, although we've engaged on social media. And the different thing this year about doing those shows is letting people into our homes.
Yeah.
And that's been big for us, but people have been really lovely and respectful. And the one thing throughout all of these shows that we've been really trying to promote is anti-bullying, because you know, I'm sure you've noticed online there's a lot of pressure and bullying that goes on, particularly in the younger demographic, which is so much a part of my world. And so we've really been pushing to try and promote everyone to being kind to each other, to being to giving goodwill, and so that is one thing which has been a big part of our stage at shows, and which we're going to continue to promote.
No, that's so important, and I know that means a lot to many people. And you know, you have a platform that you're using for the good, and I really commend you for that. I think that's incredible when people do things like that. So you're just, you know, you're not just a talent. You're somebody giving back to the world in meaningful ways, and for that, you're an awesome human being.
Thanks, Tommy. Thank you, mate. I appreciate that.
Of course, of course. So before I let you go, for all your fans tuned in who have stood by your side for all these years and continue to stand by your side, take the floor. What do you want to say to them before we head on out?
I guess I just want to say, you know, thank you so much for coming with me on this huge adventure and for being a part of it, being a part of that journey. And I'm so excited about the future and all of the projects to come, and I'm excited to share them with you. So stick around.
All right, well, we will stick around for sure. Joseph, it has been a pleasure. I hope the next time we meet, it's in person.
I know, right?
Fingers crossed.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Happy holidays. My love to your family, and be well.
Cheers. Thank you, Tommy.
Bye-bye.
Bye.